What's going on all you gamers? Today we're going to be diving into a bit more Diablo 4 and I'm going to be going over some amazing aspects you should be looking out for that can be used on absolutely any class in order to make them a lot more powerful and a lot more survivable. So if that interests you, then stay tuned. That's coming up next. So today we're taking a look at Diablo 4 and we're going to be looking at some of the aspects you can pick up that can work on absolutely any class. Remember, there's quite a few aspects in this game, some of which are truly powerful and can be quite game changing for your character. A lot of these are tied to individual classes, but knowing which ones you can use on any class can really help you out. Also, the great thing about these ones, they can all be picked up in your Codex of Power, so even if you're like me and your luck is terrible and you're not able to find them on your legendaries, as long as you're progressing through the campaign and making your way through the dungeons, you'll be able to earn these and apply them to your different weapons and equipment. So the first one we're going to be looking at is going to be Aspect of the Protector. Damaging an elite enemy grants you a barrier absorbing a set amount of damage for 10 seconds. Obviously, the higher up your level is, you're going to absorb more damage, but this one is amazing for any class that really wants that barrier effect going on, but isn't able to generate it as standard. This effect can only happen once every 30 seconds, but honestly it can be an absolute lifesaver, and sometimes there'll be other things going on in your build that might apply extra damage or do certain things once you've got a barrier activated as well. So knowing that you're able to proc one whenever you're hitting those elite enemies is going to be ideal, especially early on in the game I'd say. Jumping over to a very easy one to use, but one that you should definitely not underestimate, and that's going to be Aspect of Might. Your basic skills grant 25% damage reduction for 4 seconds. Now, although this sounds quite simple, 25% damage reduction is actually very significant in this game, and you're almost definitely going to be using your basic skills constantly within this game, weaving them between your other skills, most times in order to maintain your primary resource and such. So being able to generate 25% damage reduction without even really thinking about it can definitely help you to survive in some tricky situations. Next up, and one of my favourite ones, is going to be Aspect of Retribution. Distant enemies have a 15% chance to be stunned for 2 seconds when they hit you. This doesn't sound amazing on its own, it's not really going to be the reason you're picking it, it's probably going to be for the next effect. You deal 30% increased damage to stunned enemies. 30% on its own is very strong, but remember you can chuck this on a double hander in order to double up the effect, making it 60% as standard. There are a lot of classes in this game that are able to pull off some great CC, so if you know you're going to be chucking out a lot of stun, this may well be one to look at. Although I would say further down the line you'll probably want it off of a legendary, because obviously then it can go up even higher damage and you can get it to 50%, doubling up to 100% overall. Another great aspect for people that just like chucking something on their build that they don't even need to worry about too much, and that's going to be Aspect of the Expectant. Attacking enemies with a basic skill increases the damage of your next core skill cast by 5%, stacking all the way up to 50%. This means if you want to go in, stack up those basic attacks and then unleash a very powerful core attack, you now have a way of ramping up that damage. This can work in a lot of builds, and when it's paired with some other aspects, can really make your core skill shine. Over to our next outstanding aspect, and we've got Aspect of the Inner Calm. Deal 3% increased damage for each second you stand still, up to 30%. This might sound awful because it does involve you standing still, but honestly if you're a class that is going to be standing still in certain situations, for example those boss fights, you can really see this pump out some damage as your stats are going to rise massively. Won't work on every single class, especially not for those ones that are going to be constantly powering through the dungeons, but if you're a class that's going to be grouping up enemies and mowing them down once you're standing still, or if you want to just have an extra bit of oomph for the boss fights, this one can really pull off some significant damage. From an aspect that can make you do a massive amount of damage to one that will hopefully prevent you from taking quite as much, and that's going to be the eluding aspect. Becoming injured whilst crowd controlled grants you unstoppable for 4 seconds. The effect has a 40-second cooldown. This I would not say is the ideal aspect to chuck into your build, however if you have absolutely no way of generating unstoppable in your build, this one may well be something you'll want to chuck on just until you can find a way to generate it yourself, as the CC in this game can be an absolute nightmare and is very often going to be the thing that catches you out, so if you've got absolutely no way around that, then this may be one you want to chuck on until you can find something better later down the line. Over to some movement, and we have the Wind Striker aspect. Critical strikes grant 8% movement speed for 1 second up to 6 seconds. If your class is all about getting those crits in and you want to be absolutely mobile, this could be one you want to chuck on your build. Obviously it's going to stack on top of all of your other movement, so it can definitely mean you zoom around those maps and can help you to clear those dungeons and other things faster. But for my money, this last one is going to be the one that's going to be on a lot of builds, probably all the way even up to endgame, and that's going to be the Ghost Walker aspect. Whilst unstoppable, and for 2 seconds after, you gain 10% increased movement speed, which is not bad in the slightest, and can move freely through enemies. Anyone who has been completely bogged down or trapped or stuck in amongst stuff and just cannot get through them, especially when they become very tanky, will realise just how helpful this can be. And if you've got a nice way to generate unstoppable whenever you want, then this will probably be up almost constantly, allowing you to just navigate maps, clear your way through enemies, and just make your way through pretty much any situation without being hindered. But yeah, they're going to be my picks for some great aspects you should be looking at. These can all be picked up in your Codex of Power as you progress through the game, the campaign, and of course completing dungeons, and of course you will be able to pick them up on legendaries and take their aspects off them that way as well. But yeah, hopefully this helped a few of you guys and girls out. There'll be a lot more Diablo content from me as I am absolutely loving this game. As always, for All Things Gaming, take care. I'll see you on the next day.